So we're back for episode number 2. Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of the crashed bike rebuild series with the wonderful Yamaha XT660E that has definitely seen better days. This is episode number 2, but this is the first episode of the actual beginning of the build, the teardown. The first episode where we get our hands dirty. In episode number 1, you can see it up here somewhere, we ran through the bike and what it looks like. As you can see, it has a series of cosmetic additions, shall we say, to this motorcycle. It has seen better days. It has been used and abused emotionally and physically. You can see it's got some love marks here, love marks here, and some love marks here. Obviously that does not match that. It's also got some missing attributes such as a battery, whatever that is. That's actually a giant hole into the tank. So yeah, so it's definitely seen better days. Some love rust as well, if there is such a thing. You know, it's missing some indicators. Essentially, it's definitely seen better days, but we're gonna start tearing it down today. I've actually been really looking forward to kicking this off. I just needed to find an afternoon to do it. The idea being is that initially what we want to do is we want to get it in kind of like a bare bones state, essentially. So we want to get as much of the plastic shit off it, and I mean, you know, as much of the crap off it, and essentially I just want to have it in a kind of bare bones rolling state. So we're going to leave the wheels on and the engine and the handlebars. Other than that, most things are going to come off it, and then we're going to drop the engine at some point to take it for cleaning. Obviously take the swing arm off at a later point as well, and, you know, and then we're going to have obviously the brakes off as well and all these bits and pieces. So we're also going to be building a parts list about what it is that we're going to be needing for this. Initially we're going to be needing a whole new set of tires because they're old as hell, basically. A new exhaust because I ain't about the rust life in any way, shape or form. Also, the old one looks horrible. But the main thing that we're going to be needing is a tank. That is kind of the main scrambler part that is going to kind of help to transform this into something a little bit more Scrambler-like. That is going to be definitely on the parts list. Obviously, we're going to need a new levers on both sides. We're going to basically replace the whole thing. The throttle mechanism actually works pretty well, so we're not going to touch that. But yeah, the tank is the main bit. It's going to need new set of carbs because these haven't been used in such a long time. Indicators, brakes. I think we're going to leave the clocks as they are. I quite like the clocks on this. So the clocks, if we can, if they look heinously ugly when the bike's been stripped down, then we will get a new cylindrical one. Obviously new switch gears, these are completely had it. So the parts list is pretty substantial already, but we're going to be seeing what else it's going to need after stripping it down today. We're trying to keep this on a real budget. This is kind of like a budget build. We're going to keep the budget to about, for additional parts, about €1,000, I'd say. So that's keeping it kind of narrow, but fingers crossed we can get it done. Got my power tools at the ready, so let's get cracking. Should you wish to follow this build in other avenues, do go check out my Instagram. It's just up here. But most important thing actually when you're starting any build like this is to really make sure that you are wearing protection, because you don't know where your bike has been. It's probably been seeing other people. You don't want to get any nasty infections from it, so layer up. Just a tip, so when you're taking off bits and pieces and you don't want to lose the bolts, you could pack them, but what I tend to do is I just put them back in the original point. If this actually makes it in, which it doesn't want to be threading, we're not going to be reusing this seat in any way, shape or form. This seat is essentially dead to me right now, but I don't know what you want to do with it, but if you want to keep the bolts kind of together so you know where things go, just do that. I was using the KTM as a kind of camera holding thing. I hope it doesn't mind. So right now we've got the seat off. It's not looking too bad in terms of like electrical components underneath this. These are kind of completely mismatched and we'll be needing to mess about with them, unfortunately. I don't particularly want to replace the whole wiring loom, but that may come down to it. We're gonna have to create a whole new battery holder as well. There are so many bolts that are kind of not in their place. It's really strange and kind of out. For example, the exhaust here is missing a bolt, the exhaust bracket, so that in theory should just move out once I can loosen it up a bit. Next step, we're gonna take off all the plastics on here, and then finally, we're gonna do the tank and the front guards and everything like that. All right. As you can see here, the bolt for this is just absolutely minging. Look at that. These gloves are too big for me. I look like I'm wearing a baggy condom. It's been really, really stripped inside here, so we had to knock in the Allen key in order for it to get some grip. And then on the other side, completely different bolts. Winning. I always find Torx bolts to be the weirdos of the bolt world, just because you can never find the one that properly fits it, especially when they're made out of aluminium and they get all chewed up, like this little fucker right here. Some of these as well, they're so rusty and seized that even this bad boy can't take them out, so you have to do a bit of manliness and try to rough house them out a bit. And this is really tight. Come on, Freddie, you've been training for this. Okay, that's gonna fall out. Don't want to lose all my bits. Keep them nice and tidy. Oh, that's a kind of slightly anticlimactic. You can see here that in Spain it actually rains dust. The rain picks up sand from the Sahara Desert and just lobs it about the place. So that's what that is. That is going in the bin. We've gotten off all of the rear, and as you can see, this whole subframe section here is actually not that bad for a Scrambler. What I'm thinking is that we're gonna cut it here and then put a lower down loop on it. Usually what you'd have to do is to weld a new subframe section. Hi Leo, how you doing, baby? A lot of companies would actually cut the subframe down here and remove the whole thing and create a completely new bespoke one. But what I'm thinking is that actually we don't need to do that. All we'll need to do is to cut the frame here because it's already pretty flat. And I quite like that. I don't think we're gonna need to mess around with that too much. As you can see, there's a kind of like a little bump at the end, but I'm thinking that we're just going to need to cut it here. It's already fairly flat, and then it'll be nice and flat and have that Scrambler seat go on there, and it look pretty sweet. So next step is to do the tank. Now the tank on this, I'm not too sure where all the plugs are and various hoses and things, and I'm not sure how much fuel is actually in it at the moment. Fingers crossed it's not too full of petrol, because it did have this massive hole in it. First step is to remove the hinge bolt and this bit at the front here, and then we'll see where all the wangs and bangs are underneath that biatch. Seems like that is the only pipe here that's connecting it to the tank, but I've been wrong before. But let's see, I hope that's off at the moment. Is it on? It's actually on reserve. Let's put it to off. Because that's been on, I'm thinking now that the carburetor is packed full of shitty petrol because it's been left for over a year. So also the choke has been on the whole bloody time. So I'm pretty sure the carburetor is going to need rebuilding, or it might not, because of the hole in the tank. Maybe everything's been drained out, because if you usually leave the fuel tap on, then petrol just kind of fills up the carburetor. So I'm not too sure. But anyway, let's see what happens if we remove this clip here and pull off the pipe. If any petrol sort of spews out, I don't know. It's like really hard over time. Boom! Tank is off. So there we go, tank is off. And that was actually pretty easy. I really feel like this bike is going to be a massive pain in the arse. That hose to connect to the fuel tank was a nightmare, so I just pulled it off the carburetor one. It's not ideal, but anyway, I have no idea where this washer pinged off from, but alas, everything's going to be replaced on this bike anyway, so whatever. I mean, it's not looking too bad. It's obviously dirty, but there's no kind of like indication there's been any oil leaks or anything like that, so I'm actually fairly happy with the way that is. I mean, these engines are robust as hell, so I'm fairly happy with that. Can't complain. And the tank had absolutely no petrol in it whatsoever. I'm not being careful with this because we're going to be replacing it and it's just full of holes, so that is going to be coming off and staying with me, but the rest of that is going to go to the scrap. So yeah, it's starting to finally come together. It's not looking like a total hunk of plastic shit anymore, is it? I mean, I'm actually pretty happy with this. Next step obviously is to give it a bit of a clean. Not going to bore you guys out with this video, and then remove the switch gears and things like that. I'm actually going to leave the levers on just because the brakes and the clutch still do work, and in case I do need to take it to a shop and roll it into a van, I kind of think it's probably better to have the levers and things like that still on there. I do need to buy a chain braking tool as well to get that chain off, because I came a little bit unprepared. So I need to buy a chain breaker off Amazon, or I'll just get a grinder and just fucking grind it off. But we're building the parts list out right now. So parts list, obviously, we're gonna go for a new exhaust, new tires. I think we can get away with reusing the old wheels, but I don't know. I might see how much we can get a new set of wheels for this, like a nice set of wheels. But the thing is, we want to keep this budget, so I might just have to use a whole bunch of auto solve just to kind of bring up the chrome of the wheels. The spokes look to be in good condition. I don't think they need to be refurbished or anything like that. Brake calipers as well, both the front and the rear look actually pretty decent, so I don't think we're going to need to have to mess around with them too much. We're going to put a whole new set of rear sets on this, so that's secondly on the parts list. So we've got exhaust, rear sets, headers. We need to get a whole new set of headers for those. We can pick those up on Amazon for about 60 euros, so not that expensive. The rear brake, a front foot peg as well. We're going to also probably require a new set of carbs as well, so we're looking for those. I think that's going to be kind of like the more expensive thing. New tank as well. I was looking up a tank. Apparently a tank from a CBR 400 actually fits on this pretty well. There are some companies that make them kind of from scratch, so I might consider that, but they are a bit more expensive. If I can get a second-hand tank from a sort of a 400cc sport bike, that will go on there really well. We can sand it down and fix it up and stuff. Obviously the frame is pretty rusty there, so we're gonna have to remove the engine and everything, and I'm gonna take the frame to be sandblasted and then repowder coated, because that is, yeah, it's pretty bad up in there, and no amount of me kind of getting on there is gonna really help it out too much, so it needs to be sandblasted. New grips, new levers, new indicators, and over on this side, obviously, new gear selector, chain sprockets, battery tray, brake pads, and obviously oil change. So all in all, I think we're actually gonna be able to do this for pretty cheap. I'm quite happy with that. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any comments about the builds or any tips, things like that. That'd be really helpful. Yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much, guys. Peace.